Alrighty, here we are. Community member interview with Mr. Sam Wheeler. Sam, thank you for setting this up.
Yeah, appreciate having me.
Um, so let's kind of give some context to anyone who might be watching. The way that we ended up here is, from what I understand, Carolyn was just doing her usual checkups, and Carolyn's our CSM by the way, and she hits you up after I hadn't heard from you in a little bit. She's like, "Oh yeah, Sam had a 10K month, and he's like 2-3 months in." And so caught wind of that, reach out. We're like, okay, let's try to set something up here because you've pretty much done what I think most people are looking to do when they come into this space: leave corporate, get your time back, work from the home office. But I told Sam every call that I've had with him prior to this, our one-on-ones, he was like in the cubicle,
Yeah.
like at work. So now he's in the home office. It looks nice. But man, like we have a lot to dive into there. But let's start with, how is it being a 10K a month remote closer, works from home, escape corporate kind of thing?
It's surreal, man. It's surreal. It's you always see other people claiming they do it online, right? They're like, "Oh, I work from home, make five figures." It's like you don't really believe it until it happens, and then it happens. You're like, "Wow, people are doing it." You just kind of it's about finding the right, the right that system and the right approach, I guess.
Yeah. You were selling home security before, right?
Yeah, I was in the corporate, in the cubicle, in the basically call center,
Hmm.
selling home security. That was basically like my first sales job too. Like I had dabbled and then, was kind of fresh into sales, maybe, a year in, just doing the corporate life, and then, stumbled across high ticket sales. And I had known about like the community for a while. I don't know, I saw you on like Twitter or something, and I'd followed you for a while. I didn't really understand what even like I ask people all the time, you ever like, oh, I do high ticket sales. They're like, what is that? Like remote closing, what is that? Like people don't really know about it. It's kind of, so I didn't really know what it was about either.
Yeah.
And I definitely didn't know how to get into it. So it took me a while to kind of understand and grasp it, before especially before I was ready to make the jump. So, yeah, that's kind of my background a little bit.
What was from what I remember, you were doing well in the home security sales. Like you weren't scraping by any means. You're making some good money, stable kind of gig. But like, what was driving you to get out of that and into, maybe you didn't even realize that this remote closing thing was that in the beginning, but you probably realized like, okay, I want out of this and I want to go do something that gives me more freedom. Like, how did you get to that conclusion?
I think it was always like me and one of my best friends just kind of grew up together, and we're like, we're just not doing the 9 to 5. He got out. He's a little older, so he got out of college like before me, and he worked for like Cerner or some big company, right, doing like IT. And he got like a year in, and was like I'm just gonna quit. Like this absolutely sucks. I'm not doing this. So he just like basically quit, and then we were both kind of just like going back and forth trying to find things where you know, just avoid like the typical rat race, right? The
Yeah.
401k, just 9 to 5, right? That just it didn't seem like it was for us. And so, and I mean, we had a period there where it was like nothing was working, right? We couldn't figure out how to actually, it's tough. Like it's a game of life, right? Finding actual success is not easy. So it was just kind of one of those things where I just was gonna keep looking until something happened for me. And so thank goodness there are good things out there, like the serial sales community that I stumbled across.
Yeah. I had a similar story. Like I, I knew the 9 to 5 thing wasn't for me. I didn't know. I thought I had ideas of what I could do to not do the 9 to 5, and a lot of them didn't work. Copywriting, drop shipping, email marketing, paid ads. Not to say they don't work as business models, they do, but I couldn't figure it out at the time.
Right.
And then got into sales somehow, some way, and then got into remote sales because I realized like sales is cool, but let me get into a better version of it, which is what you're in now as well. And yeah, man, I mean, once you hit like a 10K month working from home as a contractor with not that many meeting or like not that many like like I guess management and all these people breathing down your back. Like you have meetings because you have sales calls, but like it's really hard to go back to that
Oh yeah.
structure.
And the biggest thing for me was like working a 9 to 5. It felt like most of my time was just unproductive. Like I was just sitting there waiting for the clock to click to 5, right? Now I feel like every time I actually work is extremely efficient, extremely productive. I mean, and the satisfaction and the fulfillment that comes from that is, I mean, it's hard to put into words compared to what I was doing and what a lot of people do, which is basically, put in 1 hour, maybe 1 hour of work and then get paid for, 8, and they just
Yeah.
feel like crap at the end of the day. When I work, maybe I work a little bit more, or a little bit less, but at least what I'm doing is actual, productive, right?
Yeah. That's one thing I realized too, man, coming into this space because I found in the beginning that I was getting more tired. Like I wasn't you look at the day, I wasn't working more hours, so to speak, but like when I was working, I was doing more work. Like I was completing more work. And what you just said, like you don't have drive time, you don't have meeting time, you don't have your 30-minute lunch break. Like, I mean, you could book that in your calendar if you want, but like
Right.
just all the dead weight is cut down. And like, it's interesting because these big corporate companies, man, like a lot of them aren't extremely profitable or they get all this money and they hire all these people and like they put themselves in a position where they need to figure it out. Whereas these online businesses, they're very profitable, they're cash flowing, and then the employees are like it's very lean. Like everybody is like pulling their own weight. In corporate there's a lot of like dead weight and people you're like,
Yeah.
how are you even here, right?
Yeah.
um but yeah, so how did you said you found this through like Twitter, right? um how did you come to the conclusion that okay, I want to do the remote closing, it seems like something that could be a good route? I'm going to go on YouTube, I'm going to go on Facebook, or I'm going to go do it on my own versus I'm going to go somewhere where people are already doing it. Like obviously there's a price point, it's not
Hmm.
cheap. But like how did
Yeah.
you come to that conclusion?
Great question. I think, I mean, I tried doing it on my own, but really all I could find, and I was like, okay, let's do sales. Like it seems efficient. So I mean, I tried finding offers on my own, and really all that's out there that you can find on your own that's low barrier to entry is like pyramid schemes and just selling insurance or something like that. And I tried a couple of those for about 6 months to a year. Um, and then I just decided, I guess I just decided I didn't really know what I was doing and I needed to gain career capital really. So and when you are in sales you realize you know action takers make money, and so I just decided I was going to take action. And I think having that mindset also helps me in sales because so many people, they just have trouble taking action and action. And if you don't take action, nothing's going to change, right? So once I actually, and once that happened, it's like my whole mindset changed to where, okay, I spent some money, I invested in myself, I committed to it, right? So I spent some money. Now I have a commitment to actually make it work. And now my mindset flipped. So it just like things started happening, right? It took me a month to find an offer, made my investment back in the second month, and third month I made 10K, right? So, it's really, I think it's just taking action and making this decision to make something happen.
Yeah, that's a lot of good points in there, man. Like if you mentioned you had tried it on your own, you found some weird, shady business models, insurance, whatever it might be. So many people have that same experience, and then maybe it's because of lack of exposure, but they get the idea that high ticket sales is like some pipe dream because they don't continue going down and like actually get to the source of truth. Like if you go on Reddit, dude, and you type in like high ticket sales, and it's always these guys that are in corporate that make 80, 100, 120 a year, and they're like high ticket sales is like the biggest scam. Like it doesn't exist unless you want to sell insurance or like whatever.
Right.
And I mean, people like, I mean, I've been in it for a while now, but even you now, like you've been in the community, you see these people making this money. It's like, it becomes a lot more real. Um, And then the other thing I wanted to add on that is like you mentioned, like you committed, you paid to get into the community. Um, it's just funny how that works. Like I did the same thing. I paid a substantial amount of money when I decided I wanted to come in this route. It was more so in like the brand building space because I wanted to build a social media presence. I thought that would help me. But if you had access to all the same stuff, like the community, the hiring channel, all this stuff, and let's just say it was a one-time payment of $50, like you probably wouldn't take it as seriously, right?
No,
Like
no,
you
no
really have
shot.
you got to put your ass on the line and like not to say you need like there's a bunch of different ways to do this, but when you do put your ass on the line, it's a lot harder for you to just say, "Oh, it didn't work," right?
Yeah,
And luckily for you, man, like not everybody their first offer like it's not always the 10K a month offer. You did have experience coming in sales, which helps you, you know, get to 10K a month faster with less offers. But yeah, man, there's a lot of people that they get into an offer that's okay, that gets the job done, then they go into a better one and a better one, and then they hit 10K a month. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, man, I'm not gonna say it was easy because I know it's not easy. Like
The
it's
stars
scary.
aligned. Yeah, the
Yeah,
stars aligned. But I actually acted on opportunity. Right. A lot of people have an opportunity and they get scared. I definitely think I'm somebody that when an opportunity comes around and it's a good one, then you have to act on it. Otherwise, what are you doing? So yeah, no doubt. But
yeah,
definitely, I mean, stars aligned for sure. But I mean, that doesn't mean it can't happen for everybody.
yeah. What is what's the coolest part about remote closing and like making a solid income that you didn't expect to like be a thing, but is super cool? Like one guy, for example, that we had on before, he has family, like wife and 3 kids. He's like, dude, every day I get to eat lunch with my wife and kids. He's like, that makes it worth it. But like, what for you was like a surprise benefit of this?
Um, I'd say first thing that come to mind is when you're working like 401k job, you're not allowed, you can't like write stuff off. Like now I can like basically like not like an employee owner, like not like an owner of a company, but I'm 1099, so I can write stuff off. Like I can get, that kind of thing, which is nice. And then, I mean, I could sleep in. Like, I mean, that's
Yeah,
sleeping in. Like that's huge. Like nobody wants to do a call. Most people don't want to do a call at 7 a.m.
yeah,
So a lot of days, I'll just sleep in, which is
yeah,
great. But I mean, I could go on all day. There's so many perks just having your time and being able to block off a time. If there's something important that comes up, you can just block that time off. And spend that where it needs to be spent. So yeah, definitely, just the time freedom.
yeah. What what's one thing like from right now today going back to the day you joined the community? What's one thing that was harder than you were expecting that you experienced?
Um, Probably getting people to like make a jump and like the actual closing aspect. I was selling basically low ticket, right? When it gets to high ticket, um, you know, there's a lot more on the line, I guess, and people aren't necessarily your average Joe isn't necessarily an action taker. They really want to basically think about things for 2 weeks and then never do it, right? That's basically your average Joe. So just the actual closing aspect, definitely takes some time and uh, yeah, some learning.
I had difficulty with that as well because like it was just a much different sale than what I was doing. And I came in, I remember it was like top rep where I was in roofing sales. And then I came in, I was like middle of the pack, and I was like, that's weird, man. Like these guys aren't doing anything too much different, but they're getting better results. They had been in it longer, obviously, but that was probably one of the biggest hurdles for me as well. And I would say also like finding a quality role. Um, that being said, like how many jobs did you apply to? Interviews? How many interviews did you go through before you landed on the one that like felt right?
So in that first month, because I got on the offer within 1 month, so I probably applied to I don't know 8 to 12. different offers, and got a couple offers, but a lot of just like even appointment setting that looked pretty promising. It wasn't like a lateral move. I was looking for at least a lateral move. So
Mhm.
this I felt like, and it's hard to, you still have to make a jump. Even if you stick to your corporate job and find an offer and then make the jump, you're still, it's still some risk involved there.
Yeah.
So I just found something that I thought was going to at least be a lateral move, and then made it happen. But a lot of people, if you don't have experience, you're just going to have to jump in,
Yeah.
even if you are going to make a little bit less for a couple months. It does seem like the timeline is quicker in this space.
Yeah, dude, just taking the action and then that compounds on itself. So you're better off if you know that you want to be in this space, man, you're better off putting as much effort in early as possible because if you're like halfway in, halfway out for months on end, like you're gonna get halfway in, halfway out results, you know?
Right.
For you, I want to say you were working like full time. I don't know what your commute looked like, but it was like a full time job. Like it was going to be difficult for you to work around that. When you put in your 2 week notice or you put in a notice and you left the job, like had you already accepted the one that you were on, or like how did you navigate that situation?
Yeah. So it was 8 to 5, but and my commute was like 30 minutes. So like it was definitely a packed schedule. Thankfully, I had like flexibility with my lunch, so I could take my lunch whenever I wanted. So that allowed me to do more interviews, like in our talks when I was in the cubicle and that type of thing. Um, but so that was kind of how I did the work to find the opportunity. Um, what was the original question? Sorry.
Like how did you navigate the transition from corporate 8 to 5 to remote closer? Like did you line up the job, secure it, and then put a
Yeah,
notice in? That's
I
what you
did.
did?
Yep, I got the offer first, and then I immediately put my notice in. Thankfully, the timelines lined up on that. But I mean, 2 week notice, you could leave. Who cares? Just don't show up, right? So
Dude, you could probably work. I don't know how many calls you're getting per day, but let's just say you work 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. back to back with calls. Like you're probably getting twice as much work done in that time period than 8 to 5 with an hour of commuting a day. And you have, when you're done for work, you step out like 10 steps and you're in your living room, you're in your kitchen or wherever you need to be. It's just such a like I'm now being in this for a few years, like I almost take it for granted sometimes. But I remember, dude, when I first got in and I crushed it was like a part-time like 4.7, 4.8, like it was just under 5. And I remember like I took some days off at the main job to do that. And I was like, bro, I just made however much money. Like, I don't know, I closed the deal maybe like 5 to 600 bucks. And I was
yeah,
like, I'm already home. Like this is awesome. Like I can go to the gym now, like right away or whatever. So that was a huge like perk, I would say, for
no
sure.
doubt, no doubt. And it's to the point where I actually enjoy it too. So like I used to like live for my lunch, like my hour lunch, my time off. Now it's like let me grab a sandwich real quick and keep working, right? So because I
Yeah.
enjoy it and it feels productive. So but then I'm off at 3 or whatever it is, right? So then I can go to the gym. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's great.
Cool. Cool, man. And I forgot to say something then, and we'll wrap it up here in a minute. Um, dude, only applying to 8 to 12 jobs to get what you landed as your first job, and you had some offers, which is like that's a good ratio of applications, interviews, offers. But that's pretty crazy, man. Like
Yeah,
a lot of guys
yeah. I
have to do a
found
lot.
Right. Yeah, I found that a lot of offers liked like the student athlete type background, which helps. Um,
Yeah,
so and then I think it was more like the sales experience. And honestly, my call with you and helping me with my resume, like a lot of these like quick application things, I would just like use ChatGPT, copy my resume into there and then have it like put it into a summary of like my
yeah,
experience and then just put it into like their little give me your experience quick. And that was a game changer because I could, shorten it down.
yeah. Yeah, man, people underestimate the resume because you can. I mean, one, you then have a resume, but you can use that as reference for like your interviews and how to best position things and applications like that.
Exactly.
So, all right, so we'll wrap it up here. I guess for anyone, let's go back to 2 weeks before you join the community. Obviously, you're looking for your out. Let's imagine there's somebody that is exactly where you were before you made any moves. Like, what's your best advice to that person to get from where they're at to where you're at in as little time as possible now that you've gone through it?
Good question. Um, I would probably say, not only obviously taking action like I mentioned earlier, but I mean, think about the decisions that led you to here. I mean, has it worked? If it's worked, then you're probably not going to be looking for something else, right? And if it hasn't worked, you're going to have to try to do something different. And whether that's maybe spending a little money on yourself, okay, maybe that has to happen, right? Especially if you're a young guy, young girl, you got some time. You can make mistakes, but you can't. It's not worth not taking risks, right? So that's where you're going to be stuck in the corporate job forever. So I would definitely say take risks and then don't be afraid of the work. Like you'll be surprised in today's day and age how many people you can outwork with just a little bit of that effort, a little bit of discipline. And that sounds, oh, I don't want to be disciplined. I don't want to work. It's really not that bad, right?
Yeah,
It's just be smart about it, right? Work smarter, not harder. So I would say that's probably the two things.
yeah. I mean, man, I think you would probably agree. Like at the end of the day, sales is not for everybody. And I like me personally, I wouldn't say I am a natural salesperson. Like I never thought I'd end up here, and I did. But there's some people that just not cut out for it. And I'm sure you, I don't know if you were doing group interviews or anything, but if you were, you'll see people that show up to interviews in their bedroom with the messy clothes behind them and like just not looking the part. They're not ready to answer questions. They don't know anything about the company. And like in this space, dude, it's really easy to stand out if you're just a professional, especially if you have experience. The student athlete thing definitely helps too. We hire a lot of people that like former D1 athletes, like they're the best. Um, so yeah. Anyways,
Yeah,
man, we'll wrap it
exactly.
there.
Yep, just be
Um,
a little professional, right? I mean, put a collared shirt on and turn the light on your face and
yeah,
don't say something stupid.
yeah, dude. It's a lot of it is about not messing it up, especially on group interviews. You know,
Yep,
so
people need salespeople. So it's they're in high demand. It's a valuable skill. So start building the skill. Start building
yeah,
a skill.
for sure. All right, man. Well, appreciate you coming on. We'll see you definitely around in the community. Hopefully, keep these 10K months strong. Like, dude, you rack up a year of 10K months, and it's just like life looks different after that. You know, you have so much more leverage. So
Yeah, that's
hopefully,
awesome. Yeah,
going
can't wait.
well. We'll go from there.
Awesome.
All
Yeah,
right,
appreciate it, Dylan.
for sure.